everybody. How you doing? It's Mike Watson, and I am here with another episode of Chat and Draw. Now, in case you're wondering, let's get it out the way. What is Chat and Draw? Chat and Draw is a show where I sit down and I talk with another creator from computer monitor to computer monitor about their character, and I draw them up. They ask me questions, I ask them questions, and we get some in-depth knowledge. A little bit about me, though. In the meantime, I am the publisher of Short Fuse Media Group, founder of Freestyle Comics, one half of the good, the bad, and the nerdy, aka the most enthusiastic person in comics, and sometimes I'm the super mad brother. And I've been making comic books for a long time and experimenting with this whole project. Chat and Draw is off to a great success. Real quick, want to thank everybody that have been tuning in to the episodes Tuesday through Thursdays and our special episodes on Saturday. We've been getting great response, and I've been meeting some amazing creators and bringing on some creators that I just happen to be fans of as well. And getting ready to introduce another creator that I am a fan of, and we're going to do that in our traditional way.
Here comes a new challenger.
Hey,
Ted, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We got you up here on this show trying to make some things happen.
Yeah, man. I miss seeing you out on the con circuit.
Oh my God, I missed the convention circuit as well. I'm like, got any more of them conventions? I am missing it. So that's kind of cool though. So how many conventions, when things are normal, do you normally get to a year?
Well, are we counting like the one-dayers too? And I guess probably, I mean, signings about 20, between signings and conventions, maybe something like 20 a year.
Okay. All right. About around what I get to as well. All right. So Ted, I've been following you for a while. We have been convention mates for a long time. We are both from Cleveland. You still live up in Cleveland. I live down here in Columbus. And I first came across you with your title called Apama, Cleveland's First Superhero. And I was really impressed with the quality of the book, not only the story, but that you brought an old school style of artwork today in your book. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, yeah, Milo Miller and I, he's the co-writer. We made a feature film. It was called Hero Tomorrow. It is called Hero Tomorrow. And it was about a guy who has an idea for a superhero, but he can't get it published. So his girlfriend makes him a costume of his own character, and he starts running around in the costume, actually trying to fight crime. The movie played festivals all over the world. And one of the things we kept hearing is there's really nothing like this Apama idea in comics. You guys ought to think about doing a comic book. So, I've been collecting my whole life, as had Milo. So we put a call out for artists. I think at the time we used DeviantArt is, I think, where we did the search. And we got about 150 people from all over the world submitting. And Benito Gallego, who lives in Spain, had that style that just felt like, oh my God, this is John Buscema reincarnated, And for us, it was just a matter of, wow, we can make a comic book that looks like the comic books we loved growing up, and that just kind of blew the doors off all the other contenders, So then the challenge was to apply that to sort of a modern tale, a modern styled book. And there we have our crazy Apama.
All right. So, and the reason I bring up Apama, that was the first book that you really worked on and put your time, effort into, what you released or whatnot. But Apama led to the character we're drawing today. So why don't you tell us about that character? Give us a little elevator pitch about her.
The tap dance killer. Yeah. One thing I recommend, and I learned, sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, let me just move this out of the room. I'll be back in a quick second.
No problem. Yeah, so you kind of notice I'm drawing for some reference, which I will get to that as well. Reference is just as important as being able to draw from your head. A lot of the pictures that I've drawn here, I've drawn from my head. A couple of them, I looked at some things before getting on show. But there's a very specific reason why we're looking at reference for this one, and we'll get to that. All right, Ted, go ahead and tell us about
Apologies.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Yeah, so the pitch. So one of the other people I met on the con circuit, Henri Campen, he does Yi Sun Shin. I don't know if you guys probably have met.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was always impressed with how quick his pitch is, because then you can just pitch more. My pitch for Apama is very complicated. It's about an ice cream truck driver who becomes a superhero in Cleveland, based on the spirit force of the most savage creature mankind has never known. It goes on and on. So with Tap Dance Killer, I learned the beauty of having a really quick pitch. So I'm going to give you my quick pitch. And then we can go much more into detail, but Nikki St. Clair is a mega talented actor who gets cast in a horror show musical as the Tap Dance Killer, but then she can't shake the role. There's a supernatural event that occurs, and she starts trying to wipe out the mob. It's Punisher meets Rocky Horror Picture Show, winner of the 2018 Best Comic Series on Critical Blast, and that's the pitch.
Okay. Now, the design for this character, I really like it. It's simple. I really dig a lot of the designs that you have for your characters because they are not atypical. They're not the normal designs or the things that we're used to today's in comic books, and which is one of the reasons why I think your books stand out. And so, what was the process of crafting this look for her?
Well, it goes back to my band days. So before I was ever into comics or movies, I had a rock band with my brother, and we were called Nothing Like Vaudeville, and we used to wear makeup. It was kind of a very strange, surreal take on sort of 1920s vaudeville, but we were like a hard rock band. So it was a kind of oddball thing. We had a concept album, and the story was revolved around sort of this runaway freak who gets lost in this world where all the characters are kind of villains. And one of the characters is named Sir Terror. He's the mob boss. The lead assassin is the Tap Dance Killer. So originally that was sung by a guy in the band. I would make flyers for the shows, and I drew pictures of the Tap Dance Killer. And it looked very much like sort of this straight up vaudeville character with, striped shirt, sort of that straight brim skimmer type hat. And the band ended up turning into a full-length musical. And there we decided, because the band was a bunch of guys, we decided to cast some of the characters as females. And that was the first time Tap Dance Killer was played by a female. It was Jan Lynch. And then years later, so I should probably attach some years to some of these things. The band was back in like 1992. The musical was done in 94. Then in 99, I met a really great Cleveland jazz vocalist, just great jazz vocalist anywhere, Kai Allen, and asked her if she would be willing to sing a version of the Tap Dance Killer song. She did, and she blew my doors off with how amazing it is. And you can find that on our YouTube page. So I decided I really liked the idea of casting the character as African American going forward. And then when we did Apama, which was back in 2010, I had the idea to bring the characters from the musical, all the villains, to life in the Apama series. And that was where, Tap Dance Killer was kind of updated. I remade her look to be a little sleeker. And that's kind of how it evolved. So, you're talking about almost 30 years of evolution in some way.
Awesome stuff. That's great. So we got a question right quick from Andrew Duggan. Andrew, what is your inspiration for the art from mainstream / indie media?
I'm trying to from mainstream indie media. I wonder if if he's still there, could he be a little more specific? What I'm not sure I followed that one.
Yeah, Drew. I think he's asking, where are you pulling any inspiration from mainstream media or indie comic media? Like, is Marvel or DC an influence for you on any of these books, or is there are you getting
Oh, I
inspiration
see.
from
I
any?
see. Yes. Okay. Right. It's either or. Not. I
Yeah.
was just saying, I was trying to put those together, and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. I'm sorry about that, Andrew. Yeah. My big influence really is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, and John Romita Sr. Like, to me, that was the greatest rock band of all time, and I love what when you go back to those first 20 issues of any of those great characters, they just build up this rogues gallery, and every couple issues you get this new outstanding character. It could be Mysterio or Doc Ock or the Vulture or Kang, Impossible Man. It just goes on, and I think that's what we really wanted to do with ours, is sort of not have like a long, maybe drawn out arc, but also keep you on board from the top. So like when I issue one of Apama, there's no superheroes in the world in our comics. So you see the origin of the first character, and then issue 2, you get the first supervillain. And it's an experience you really can't get from Marvel and DC anymore, because there's so much backstory to everything. So a lot of what I think people dig about our stuff is it does remind them of classic Marvel. And I just, adore those old books and how they were just so prolific with characters. So the reason we're here today doing what we're doing is because we were building up the Rogues Gallery. Tap Dance Killer is a villain in Apama who ended up getting her own series. And, if we'd been kind of drawing out one long, 10-issue arc about one villain or something, we would have never got there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So obviously old school guys influence in there, and I can definitely see that with the art style that we're doing, that you're doing. I feel like even in the storytelling that you have happening in your book, that's a good that is a big influence on the things you have going on here. And so here is wait, okay, Andrew's got another question. Excuse me, what indie books would you like to cross over with your book?
I'd be open to almost anything. One of the selling points of our book, though, is that we say it is, all Hero Tomorrow comics are a shared universe. Like, Apama, Tap Dance Killer, we've got Bloom coming up. Bloom is also a series based on another Apama villain. So I think it would be fun for all of us to kind of do something, if we could. I don't know what that would be. Maybe a benefit type book or something, where we just sort of throw all the continuity out the window and see if we can create a story that's not just a big mess, but something that's really solid. Maybe it's like I don't know what that could be, into the indieverse.
Now, I don't know if you heard of it, but it just instantly clicked with me. And it's another title that I really do enjoy. It's by Kat. She makes this book called The Dancer, who is about an assassin who got on her training through dancing. And she has not dealt with and make sure I get it correct, but the mental crushing of watching her parents be assassinated in front of her. And so she goes out in the middle of the night using all of her dance moves and stuff in her assassin training. And I think when I don't know, when we loaded up today and I was getting everything put on there, it just clicked with me like, oh man, because I've been mixing characters together over on my page the last couple of weeks. I've been combining them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that would be a good combo. Tap Dance Killer and the Dancer put together. I wonder what that would look like. But that could be potentially a good crossover story too.
I mean, what's the character?
The character is the Dancer.
The Dancer. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it might even be like a book that's right up your alley too. Kat's a pretty good writer, man. She makes some good content, but the Dancer is what she has a couple different books. But the Dancer is my favorite book that she does.
Is it a comic or is it like a novel?
It's a comic.
Okay.
Yeah, she's about 2 issues in on it or whatnot. So kind of Andrew saying, so kind of a one-shot book out of canon. Yeah, that's exactly what he's talking about. So let me see here. So the cool thing I like about this, and you and I have had this conversation before, and I don't know if there's many people that have kind of run into this issue when you have multiple books, multiple characters, and then you start off with a character that you are putting on your plate as the franchise, and all of a sudden you make this other character, and they kind of take the storm, they take the lead. What is that? What is that like for you? Because I know you love all your characters, but I know Apama's close to your heart because of everything you've been through with it, and he's the start of it. But I've seen you at shows, and that tap dance killer be moving.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's part of that quick pitch, and I think they see the face, they see that big banner, and it's just like, even the words, like, it's just this is a lesson, like Apama, the undiscovered animal. If you just hear that, it doesn't, it requires explanation. Mm-hmm. Tap dance killer, it doesn't matter what coming in, something pops into your head, you picture that, and it's like, it's just an immediate thing, and she sells so much easier at the shows than Apama. And I still love Apama, and there'd be no tap dance killer if there was no Apama. So I always think of them as kind of siblings, and Apama's a gentleman, and he doesn't mind stepping out of the spotlight every now and then, but he's itching to get back into it too.
And how many? You're up to what? 6 issues on Tap Dance Killer, or 5?
5. 5 completed our first arc. Then we did a Kickstarter, and we raised about $14,000 to do the softcover, hardcover collection.
So how many Kickstarters have you done?
Dude, I love what you're doing, by the way. I love the pose that you chose. This is perfect. Yeah, I'm sorry. The question is how many Kickstarters?
No problem.
We've done 3, I think. We've done 3: Apama Volume 1, Volume 2, and then Tap Dance Killer.
Okay, awesome. So your experience on Kickstarter has been pretty good.
It has. I think we've averaged about 14,000 on all 3 of them. Nice.
So now, another thing that I fancy at your table is you got a variety of different book types. You got that hardcover graphic trade that you have on your table. What did the first time you did that, what did that feel like? Opening that up, seeing your first trade, your first one in hardcover. How was that feeling?
Panic. Because
Panic?
Oh, hell yeah. Is there a mistake in this book? Please, God, no. I did not enjoy it one bit, dude. By the time I got to the end, I was thrilled.
Okay.
That's how it is, man. It's just, did a page get messed up? Did something happen at the printer? I don't enjoy getting those no, that's not
that's not the story.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but I will say this, when I do remember Volume 2 of Apama, especially, we and that was the birth of the Tap Dance Killer character. That 2-parter where she becomes the character. I'm so proud of that story of almost any story we've done. Like, it's just, it pulls from so many things and my experience. And, when I got done kind of just proofing it, reading it, making sure it was all right, I did tear up.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Just trying to make sure I get
now, what about you? When you get them back, are you're just thrilled, or is this panic thing only me?
So I still have panic, maybe not as much as I used to. I have Danny Cooper, who is editor-in-chief right now, and he is notorious for going through and making sure we're covered. I read the stuff over, Danny Cooper reads the stuff over, and then Sean Mack, who's our operating director, he still will give it a gloss over, like, hey, you missed this one right here. So when I get the books, I'm feeling pretty secure because we put it through the ringer. Even my colorist, Veronica Smith, who I've been working with for a long time now on the book, she still helps. She comes in and helps us at the same time. So we've edited the book through the layout stage, through the coloring stage, through the lettering stage, to the post-production stage. So I'm pretty excited when I get that fresh copy, that first copy of a new book out and in my hand, and I'm ready to give it to people. I'm feeling pretty secure. But
Good.
I try to put in those fail safes because I know I get so caught up in the fun of it and wanting to make it that, I make mistakes because I'm like, I'm just going. I'm just.
Yeah. Well, I do have people proofread things, but you just don't know if something at the printer goes wrong,
Mhm.
things that are even out of your control. Um,
Those are good points. And I think I prefer the tap dance feeling with the white heeled shoes. I think that's my preference.
yeah. Okay.
I think that's it right there. I think that's what I'm gonna try to go with here. Mm, mm. Man, I can say I've been having a blast drawing these characters. Everyone's character on the show. I've had a really good time, and really got to push myself here.
Cool idea. I'm super honored, and I can speak for all of us. I'm sure we're very grateful for the exposure and for your creative talents placed upon our characters.
Ah, thank you very much, man.
Of
All right,
course.
let's dig into these characters. Let's dig into some of these character questions. I know you've been working with this character for a while, so I'm interested in knowing some of these things.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. Oh wait, that's my wrong slot.
This is one of the things I preach, by the way, when I'm doing comics, is how much you need to know your character, and I know I'm gonna get busted for something I don't know, but go, let's do this.
All right. So first one up. What would her favorite film be?
It would definitely be a musical,
Okay.
and as I said, the Bob Fosse thing. With her age, it probably would be something like the Chicago.
Okay. Now, a variation on that question because she is a dancer
Yeah.
and she's into musicals. What would she have thought of the movie Cats, the new one?
She would have loved it. She would have loved it. And I saw it, and I hated it and loved it. But
Okay.
Nikki wouldn't have looked at that as, and she'd be like, "This is visually amazing, and I'm getting great dancing and vocalizing, and yeah." I mean, she would have, like, she can just tune into a vocal performance and be thrilled, and
Okay.
not even worry about this particular aspect of. I mean, Cats as a movie, as a musical, I just think it's a really lame story, regardless. But yeah, I mean, when I saw the movie, I was personally, I didn't have such a bad time, but I think she would have really liked it.
Okay. And see, that's the thing. Danny Cooper joined in. Always, he's like I say, he's editor chief. Said always a bit anxious because I'm afraid I'm going to miss something after print. So he still has the butterflies as well.
I love the face you got on her.
Ah, thank you. All right.
And that's something that you may take for granted, but I sure don't. Drawing African American women. I always tell people who are drawing her, she needs to look black before she's colored, before the actual color is applied. And that will throw a wrench at people. Some people can't handle that.
Yeah, I've had one or two conversations about that with different artists and creators as well. It's like you've got to be able to tell what their race is prior to adding color on them.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of practice with it because I have 3 girls. So
yeah, there you go. Right.
I'm very passionate about making sure that they can see themselves in the books that I work on and whatnot. But I also went to Columbus College of Art and Design, so that's like a melting pot of all types of people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Okay, so favorite thing for her to eat.
Oh,
what's her favorite food?
Yeah, she likes Thai food, and we actually have it even in the book. She orders sushi the one time, but she doesn't like sesame seeds. She wants just to she wants to taste the actual sushi.
Okay. All right. So
not that sushi and Thai food are the same thing, but those are 2.
Right. Hey, I got more than 2 myself, so we want to make these characters feel as genuine as possible. So when it comes to the process of creating this character, I know we talked about like kind of her origins and things like that. How did you decide what book you were going to release her in or premiere
Oh,
her? Rather?
oh, you know, well, so you mean versus Apama versus her own thing?
Well, what issue number?
Oh
How did
yeah.
you know?
So one of the analogies I use as a writer is I know where we're going, and I look at comics like a cross country road trip, really. You know where we're going, or I know where I'm going, and I'm not taking any highways. And if we see a sort of a stop along the highway, we're not on the highway. If we see a stop on the road, a little city, a little village, town, we're going to stop in, we're going to check it out. And if we find something we really love, we might, book a night in the hotel and, really dive in a little deeper. So this is what was happening. Apama, we have this whole thing going on with our main nemesis, Regina.
Mm-hmm.
But I had started working my other, I do comics and film and for a living. And I was doing a documentary on a theater troupe in Cleveland, Near West Theater. And I got to know them really well, and I was just so fascinated by the whole theater thing. I talked to Milo and I said, man, wouldn't it be cool if Apama, based on what just happened, is so burned out from getting his ass kicked all the time as a superhero that he decides to just, this girl, young lady flirts with him and asks him to come audition for a musical. And he's like, man, it can't be any worse than what's going on with my superhero life. And maybe he can get her digits. So he decides to go audition. And it's sort of like this little veer off the road that became one of, I think, our coolest stories. So, the thing with Regina, the bigger story that we're still telling in Apama is happening, but that idea just enticed me so much that I felt like it has to happen now. I don't want to wait on it,
That makes sense. So I think I go a bit of the opposite end of you. I got more story arcs. I tend to lean more towards the Robert Kirkman idea of it. So I could definitely appreciate the one shot adventures where you're getting more content out, more characters. So was that a tough decision for you to come to? And two-part question: are there other writers besides Stan Lee and them that maybe do the long game that you appreciate?
Yeah. I mean, I do like all kinds of storytelling. And it's not to say that I don't appreciate all kinds of writing, but it's just the kind of story we wanted to tell. I personally am a bigger fan of the shorter episodic things, but there also is a bigger story going on. So it's a great question. Like, I mean, I could name a bunch of other writers that I like, Doug Mensch, and we like Steve Gerber, Alan Grant. Let's see, but like the longer, I don't really think I have a good answer for that. Like, who are some of the guys that you're thinking of, or ladies?
So I am a big fan of, well, namely, Robert Kirkman, because I think he has a good mix and blend of the short and long game. So he'll do a story arc, but while you're reading like that 4-part story arc, he's building another small story on the inside of that where you'll only see 1 or 2 pages of it for each issue. And then by the 6th issue, he wrapped up that first story arc, but now you're in the conclusion of that story arc. And that story arc has taken over the whole issue. And you're like, wait, where did this come from? And you go back to your books, you're like, he was building something the whole time. Like, this was a big thing. So stuff like that. And I've come to really appreciate more mangas for their long game, specifically Naruto, because the more and more I read that, and as each chapter or arc finished, they introduced new lore, new rules, but like they introduced things that were like coming present in the current time, but things that had been there apparently for years in that actual world, and you're like, God, like the time and thought process to think and lay all that out, but be patient enough to not give it to us yet.
Whoa. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Computer kind of conked out. Well, I mean, for me, I feel like I did get that, with even with the Stan Lee, John Romita stuff and Ditko. Like, you think about how long they were setting up Norman Osborn, or these things that became epiphanic moments, but they were dropping seeds all along the way. So I guess that's how I approach it, and we do try to do that with our stuff. That there's within these first 5 issues of Tap Dance Killer, we've dropped hints about the whole next arc, this sort of supernatural thing that's going to be coming. So I mean, I feel like I've always been a Marvel guy, and I've always read like Spider-Man, and I feel like most of the writers do tend to do that. But I guess I like a little bit more of a compressed style of storytelling versus what they're calling the more modern decompressed.
Okay. Cool. And like I said, or like I'm about to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just like to explore and think about, like, and hear what other people feel about that, because I know one thing I'm working on as a writer is trying to be patient.
Yeah.
because the payoff is worth it. Like, because as a fan, you read that stuff and you're like, oh, this bomb just got dropped. And it's like, dude, I got to make myself be patient. We got a couple comments over here.
Oslo, this sketch is a beast. No doubt. I agree 100%.
Thank you very much. CL Bedell says his artist struggles with, I guess, the making the people look like their race before it gets colored. So he's definitely feeling you. CL says again, Neil Gaiman plays the long game via shorter stories really well. Danny says, sorry, my computer's a little jumpy. Danny says, Risso is big on storytelling like that. I just bought the entire 100 bullets to go back through for that style of storytelling.
Okay.
And I found, like, now I'm into looking at other, like just getting comic books to see how writers write stuff, not just because I'm a fan of it. One thing that Victor, my brother, shouted out to me is that the idea of, so that brings me to my next question. How do you handle action? And this is a big thing in Hot Shot, because we do a lot of action scenes or whatnot, like big busting buildings and stuff like that. But what's more impactful? How do you handle that, or how do you coach and direct it, even in your writing? Is it the hit before, the hit during, or the aftermath of the hit?
Well, great question. And I do get involved in the layouts of all of our books. And in fact, this guy right here is one of my best friends. Let's see. And what's really nice is I will, let's say I need to get somebody you've written a scene and somebody needs to get punched. Well, I can kind of see a punch in my head, or I could try to draw it, which would take me forever. Okay. For me, I'll just, boom, there's a guy getting punched, but I might want the angle from this side where he's coming at me, and it's like, I'll snap a photo of it. I will send it to the artist. And then actually I lay it out. The way we typically work is the artist will do, and Donnie Hadiwijawa, I'm sorry I haven't mentioned him until just now. He's the artist on the Tap Dance Killer series. He will send a very rough, like you started with, very loose lines, layout. And then I take that, I size it exact to what my comic page needs to be. I bring it into Illustrator. I do all the lettering on it professionally, as if it is a final. And I make sure that the lettering has space and all that. And then I kind of work it with sort of the figures here if we need some things that if some things need to be altered.
So you're throwing the letters on there at layout stage.
Absolutely, 100%.
Awesome.
Done. Yeah, and every stage I just swap out that image in Illustrator. So then I get the pencils. I got the letters already done, and then that's another thing that I think helps our book. I know it helps our book because I get so many passes at the writing, and, I get the inks back. I get to see it again. And then I'm like, well, first of all, the pencils came back. I dropped it into there and I'm like, yeah, now I can change this caption because of this expression. And it's just all constantly being worked on at every stage so that the story, by the end is not in any way rushed. I also think, for writers to learn Illustrator is a great idea. You just, I make so freaking many changes. Man, I love that face. Oh my gosh. I make so many changes, and if I was hiring a letterer, and I'm apologies to anyone who makes their living doing lettering, but as a writer, if you are your own letterer, I think your stories, you have to learn the graphic design of it. But even if you are just doing it as a writing tool, and you hand that file off to an actual letterer that can do the graphic design part, it's so valuable to the process. It certainly is for me.
Dude, you are speaking Danny Cooper's language right now.
Yeah.
I know Danny's sitting over there with his checklist, like, he got that.
Good. All right. Way to go, Danny.
That's part of his process. That's part of the process that he likes to use. Like and I was telling a couple people when I was doing the show beforehand or whatever, and I was showing my layouts for Hot Shot, and I was like, yeah, Danny's already gone through and edited my layouts. And somebody was like, he edits your layouts? Y'all do edits at the layout stage? I was like, oh yeah, because we've made mistakes or we've missed things. Mm-hmm. So I try to do my layouts tight enough so I can so enough can be seen, but I can just go right on top of those sketches to make it, to go to my pencils.
Yeah.
But we've learned that the hard way. But now it's key in what we do in trying to make our books. So I know he's like, that's what's up.
It is. I think you can just see it when you get the book back and all those hours that went into thinking about those captions, and it wasn't like rushed at the end. I mean, the captions formed the layouts in some ways, so they helped form it.
But I also like how you're saying like the graphic design plays a huge aspect into it, like that. It's so important. Like a lot of people don't think, or I think have the wrong idea of like that every part of the comic book is just as important as the previous part, and the letters have to complement the art, and the art has to complement the letters. Like it has to be hand in hand.
Yeah, it is. It's all hand in hand, and it's why like I would be embarrassed to show somebody my scripts, because I know my process is such that it's going to change so much. As long as I can get it to the point where my artists understand it, and we can get what's right on the page, I will get the script right by the end. But my script is very much a kind of a blueprint. It's not something that. It's not a well-written piece of literature until it's done in comic book form. And then it is, a proper piece of fine literature.
Oh man, I don't think that matters, man. I think that's the way it has to be.
I'm just kidding around.
I know when I put down the script for Hot Shot, like I'm very Marvel style with it. Like I'll do 1 or 2 sentences for each page, and then I'll start doing my layouts for it or thinking about how the artwork for it. Then I'll go back in and then, add more content to it. And sometimes I don't even do the verbiage till we actually get on there. One of my favorite parts to work on with Danny is that when even though we may have the script there, we'll go through each page as he's lettering it and say, is there a different way we can say this? Or is there a stronger way to say this? Or what's the casual way to say this type of thing? So I can definitely feel what you're saying on your process.
And the other thing is just write down every idea you ever have, like no matter where you are, be able to save your ideas. If you're walking the dog or whatever, have a little app that you can just talk into it. And if somebody says a line of dialogue that you love, jot it down, because those things come in so handy. Man, she is so cool.
Thank you.
Look at that attitude.
Like I said, man, I have been having a blast doing this show and getting to draw these characters. So it's definitely something that I wanted to do. And honestly, man, it's practice for me. uh, that the thing I kind of dug myself in a hole with Danny because every time I do something on this show, he's like, "Oh, so that means you're ready to ink the book too, huh?" All right, it looks like you can ink that book too.
What are you using right now?
Procreate's on the iPad right now.
Oh, on the iPad. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what our. So we have an inker on Tap Dance Killer, Chis Ariswenda, and he uses Procreate.
Yeah, it's great. I'm a big fan of Clip Studio too, but I have not had enough. I haven't had enough time to get into it to really get good with it.
I just got into Clip myself, and I couldn't believe how much nicer it is than Photoshop. And that was Donnie, our Tap Dance Killer artist. You know, he bought us Antique when we were starting this out, and he expected to do these things digitally, but he could not get comfortable on Photoshop. But then he switched to Clip, and now it's phenomenal.
Mm.
It
man,
really is
Photoshop
much more control. Like, you know, I found it right away.
Photoshop may be like Photoshop is still a good program, but I'm blown away by how cheap this program is and everything you can do with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Procreate? How much is that one?
Procreate for the full suite is only $12.
Oh, geez. Wow. All right. I didn't know it was that cheap. I thought Clip Studio is cheap at like 50 or whatever. Or maybe it's like 80 now. They run deals all the time.
Yeah, Clip Studio is always running the deals. But like there's two versions of Procreate. There is a $9 version and then the $12 version, which I bought. But I haven't got good with the perspective tools on here yet.
Okay.
Comes with rulers and guidelines and perspective tools. So you can draw in perspective on Procreate.
Very good.
So I'm like, go ahead.
You just save things to a cloud and then download them to your laptop or something?
Yeah. Well, I got like 128 gigs of space on here right now. So this is all I use it for is drawing. That's it. But I have in correlation with Dropbox and Google Drive. So I have space on those too. So I'm able to move files and things up there.
I love the line weight variation you got going too. That's really hip. It's a lot of things, you know, when we were trying out artists for Tap Dance Killer and Bloom at the same time. And then that search, we got almost 250 people that applied. And, you know, line weight is a thing that, you know, right away separates people. You know, a lot of people have just almost like a coloring book style, which I'm not a fan of. May I ask you to make that glove a little longer?
A little longer? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, let's see.
About here?
Yeah, a little longer, just a dash longer. There you go. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
No problem. You know what the character looks like. No problem. Yeah, and see, and that's one of the things I appreciate about like this, and I'm probably late to the game, but it's the fact that I can go back and forth between different layers and make it how I need it to be without, you know, really messing up anything. So now I can come in here and just completely erase this arm, even though I'm in love with it. All
that line weight I was bragging about is gone. Dude, I love it.
So yeah, doing fun stuff like this, and like I find that these things push me as an artist, and I just want to get good.
Good. Listen to this guy. You're already great.
I still got a long ways to go.
Yeah, who are your influences?
Whew. And I always pronounce their name wrong, but Adam and Andy Kubert.
Okay.
Absolutely love them. Stuart Eminem. I pronounce everybody's name wrong. Yeah, Stuart Eminem. I absolutely love him. I keep these books by my desk whenever I'm drawing. There is, of course, Joe Mad. Love his work when he was making comic books. And Steve Scroce. Steve Scrooge is one of my favorites because I love what he said. He said he draws every page like he has a $50 million budget for each page or something ridiculous like that.
That's great.
So yeah, I look at a lot of artists. I love Ryan Otley, and I always advise. Yeah, we're getting some good comments here. I'm gonna have to catch up with those in a second. I always try to advise people not to chase after other artists, like be happy with where you're at and stuff. But Ryan Otley would be that artist that would come out every month. Like I'd be like, oh my God, this is so great. And then I go and I try to push myself, and like I'm getting there. And then that next month comes out, and then Otley destroyed everything he did before. And I'm like, ah. But you know, I love that work. I love that type of stuff. So those are my biggest influences.
I like, well, the guy I loved when I was in high school, which, you know, I always feel like whatever you were into in high school is almost what shapes you the most. But Bill Syncovich was doing Moon Knight at the time. And man, do I love that stuff. It was just, you know, a lot of people kind of said it was too similar to Neil Adams, but like once that book went direct around issue 15, he got into his own stratosphere. And I still look at those and just blown away.
Yeah, but you gotta love that stuff. Like that's one of the reasons. Oh, okay. Good question. All right. Has there been a moment, and if it was, describe it, tell us about it, where you witnessed somebody like just being a fan of your work? Example, I was at a convention and this kid, my nephew, brought his friend over to my table, and it's like, hey, this is my uncle's book, Hot Shot, man. It's really cool. The kid bought the first issue. 30 minutes later, he came over and got the second issue. 45 minutes later, he got the third issue. 30 minutes later, he convinced my nephew to buy him the fourth issue. Then he brought his mom over to get the fifth issue. And he was completely out of sources, had no more money. And he was just standing there looking at my table with his stack of books. And I was like, man, come over and get this last issue, man. I'm going to just give it to you for free. But like, he literally sat down after getting each book and read them, like in different corners of the building I was in, and I could see this kid reading them and just be lost in them. And I'm like, man, that is why I make comic books. That's what you're doing right there. So do you have a moment like that?
A single moment? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happens with Tap Dance Killer that melts my heart. You know, I am married to an African-American woman. We have a daughter, you know, and there was more motivation for me to make a really kick-ass black female within our world. But I get women coming up to our booth, you know, who've read the book, and they're like, I got to tell you, I feel seen in this book. And it means everything to me. You know, it's, I've had some of the nicest things said to me in my life just because of these comics that we're doing. And I, you know, it makes me take that as a responsibility to keep really putting everything I can into this, because I want this to be that book that, you know, somebody, you know, what Moon Knight was to me, I want this to be for somebody else, you know.
Yeah, man, that's the feeling, man. That's what you want to do. I want people looking at my books like I was when I was 11 years old in the 6th grade, blown away that Wolverine could stand up against Omega Red's Death Spore virus and all the other X-Men were down. And he just wouldn't give up with those butter knives coming out of his hands, man. You know, me being this short little kid and him being 3 foot nothing, I related to that. I wanted to be that.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, what else do we got here? Oh, let's get to some of these comments. Danny says that's the same stance that Victor's taken as a writer, that he letters his own work. So, and he's right. Victor works in the same mindset that you do with, you know, making adjustments and changes at the lettering stage. Mike, how many stories have we adjusted during that process? It can be a pain, but sometimes we have a better end result. I think we always have a better end result. And we've adjusted plenty of our stories in that last stage because, and I think you've already touched on this, the story that you start off with isn't the story that you end up with, because you're constantly trying to grow.
Yep.
I'd love to see some notes on the Procreate brushes used in the comments. Yep. I actually I'm just using the basics. I haven't even gone down that rabbit hole of all the brushes here. Ted, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It sounded like you were going to say something.
I was going to read the Oslo comment there, but you got it,
Okay.
so we're good.
Who else we got here? CL says you're already good, dude. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's a little too modest here. You know, we were talking about why we before we started, you know, maybe why we chose this kind of an image to
yeah.
So one of the stories that I love about Spider-Man, and I you know, again, I'm a huge John Romita fan, but one of the things he said, and I think it was his interview with Stan Lee, that you can watch it on YouTube. He said, if you draw Spider-Man standing on the ground, you've wasted Spider-Man. And I just love that, you know, and he was the art director at Marvel all those years. You know, you could just hear him saying that to an artist, you know, that should be that should not be round. It's like it's sort of, yep. It's like a skimmer, they call it.
Yeah.
You got it. Yep. So with Tap Dance Killer, whenever somebody's going to do an image of her, I'm like, she is a dancer. And, you know, actually that line is kind of parallel to the brim, if you can think of it.
Parallel to the brim?
You know what I mean?
I'm trying.
The top line of the hat would be almost parallel. It would be parallel to
the
brim.
Okay, I got you. I think I understand what you're saying.
So with Tap Dance Killer, like, she is a dancer. So, you know,
like that.
The pose should, yes. The pose should be dance influenced, you know, and when she hits somebody, she hits them. It's like a dance move. And so I ask people to kind of look for references that are dance that could also, you know, if it's a fight scene, you know, have her kick somebody, but with a dancer's flair. And it's like our, you know, the other character in the second most prolific character in our Tap Dance Killer series is Punchline. He's a heavyweight boxer who becomes this superpowered murderous clown. But he, you know, he's a boxer. So when he fights like a boxer. And I think these are good cues for anybody who comes to illustrate the book, that always look for something that's unique to your character that doesn't really make sense for every other character. You know, because there are so many superheroes that, you know, we need to differentiate wherever we can. Cool.
This is fun, man. All right. So, yeah. And so when you, because originally you were going to have me draw Punchline. So I was kind of skimming some boxers just for, you know, fighting. And I didn't want to do, I've been doing a lot of action poses. I wanted to hit it with another calm, like boxer moment type of thing. Maybe with his dude up, like really just like focus and really get into the fight. And then, but you said you wanted to get a little bit deeper with the character, and we don't want to reveal a bunch of stuff about Punchline yet because you're still developing.
Yeah, because if we're going to be so specific, I got a lot more I can say about her than him at this point.
Right. And so you said, yeah, we're going to break her out. And I was like, and then you were like, hey, but check this out. I always tell people when thinking about her poses, look at what's the name of the dancer again?
I said Bob Fosse choreography.
Bob Fosse choreography. And I was like, okay, that's different. I've never done that before, but all right. And then I Google searched it, and I was like, man, Ted making my job hard up here now. I got all these poses that I want to pick from. Because that's fun. Like, how do you take and that's kind of like not actually kind of, but that's exactly what it is when you have a writer that can give you content to build on. Because now, like, if I was drawing the book and you told me that's what it was, I'd be like, oh my God, that's great. Because now I just have all these things that I can just chime with for each one of the action scenes, or even how she moves or how she walks. I can try to throw in little stuff like that, which is great because that's character building stuff.
Amen. Yes, Daniel Calvin. I hope I said that right. Bob Fosse was a freaking genius. Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome that Daniel knows that.
Well, and he directed the first version of Chicago, which was the movie that I would have said would have been her, you know, her favorite film. Although he didn't do the, you know, he's passed away, but the stage version.
Right. Absolutely love this thing.
Oh, that's pretty nice. You just get those straight lines. So, are you using like something that, yeah, like a curve like that? So there's like a correction that happens right after you make the line sometimes, a little bit.
Yeah.
What do they call that?
I don't know what it's called. All I know is that you have to just hold it. Once you make the shape, hold it, and it'll straighten it up for you.
Okay.
Takes some getting used to, and some playing with. But man,
Sure. Yeah.
Is it ever helpful? Absolutely love it. So, but definitely things that I enjoy about Procreate. Oh wait, I erased it too much. There's that. And the go back, the edit undo option is ridiculously forgiving in this program.
Yeah, cool.
I left out her eye. That's not good. So, do we have anything else in the works, or are you just building on what you got right now?
I'm sorry, I just saw Mayan dropped in there.
Okay.
Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Good dude. Also does his own comics. I've met him on the con circuit. I think we met in Youngstown at a show. Let's see. What was the what were you asking?
I'm just asking, is there anything else you got going on that you're like developing, or are you just focused on the content that you got right now?
Oh no, Bloom. So another Apama villain who is getting her own series, Regina. So she's like our hippie psychedelic flower child cult leader villain. And,
okay.
It's in solicitation in the preview guide this month, but it got canceled. So I don't know when it'll be out. And I'm actually starting to wonder even about, what would it be like to do it as a web comic or something, because he's already, Butch Mappa's doing the art. Amazing. And, I'm just starting to weigh different options. I think we have to sort of think about how are we ever going to even get our stuff out if this virus doesn't get under control, which doesn't seem like it's happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever done a straight up web comic?
Yes. And they're fun. And obviously I think what already is the main thing with a webcomic is just being consistent, figuring out how much of it you want to put out. We are working on a webcomic right now with my interns where I just want to kind of do, I think 3 strips, 3 classic comic strip boxes a week for it. Super short stories that's connected to our world, but doesn't really interact really. It's just about, it's like a coffee house in the world of freestyle comics with a regular cast of characters who just talk about superheroes, and it's a superhero themed coffee house, and they never really interact with any of these superheroes because they're like Hollywood movie stars or whatnot in their world. And a superhero might crash into the bar or into the coffee house, but then they'll go right back to the action, and like they'll just be like, oh shoot, well, that's somebody get insurance on the phone. Everybody okay? People just go back to doing the regular business because that's a part of the life, but they don't have any superpowers and they're just regular. So I just kind of want to make it just like once a week, short little jokes, or just, building up the interaction of these characters.
So where would you, post it?
For us, I'm going to post it onto our Instagram account, Twitter, or whatnot. But the places to be, which I think you have a pretty good audience, and it could work for you, with either be Webtoons or Patreon.
Yeah. Okay. So I just did start repurposing the Tap Dance Killer story. So what happened is I put the first 2, when the quarantine happened, I put issues 1 and 2 of Tap Dance Killer for free. So you can just read those first 2 issues. I'll add it to the comments of this video, in fact.
Actually, I forgot to mention that, so thank you.
No problem. And then I thought, well, I'm just really trying to get people to know the character and give people something to entertain themselves during the quarantine. So I did put it on Webtoons. So I just started that as well. We've only got 2 episodes, and that's kind of a fun little problem to take an existing comic book page and then reformat it for Webtoons. It's a little different sensibility, but I've kind of been having fun with it. And, I'm just starting with it, but I kind of think it's neat.
No, you're absolutely right, because it is a completely different format. You can't just bring the pages over, which is where I made my mistake.
Yeah, you gotta break each panel into its own image, and then you have to re-letter it and keep the lettering consistent from panel to panel, keep the spacing from panel to panel. I mean, you can always just put up a page like it was done, but that's not what seems to be the method there.
Yeah, you're not going to get your full value if you do that.
This looks so great, man. I really love it.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it. I always want to do everybody's character justice,
including your own justice.
Oh yeah. I can't wait till that book comes out. Our Zero Event #1, written by Victor Dandridge and drawn by Mike Lancet. And I know I keep saying it to everybody, but it is our Justice League animated series comic. They are killing it, and justice is it focuses on justice and the heroes in that era, in that time. So I can't wait for people to read that and get that in people's hands.
Oslo mentioned that he thinks the cane should be in front of the thumb.
In front? All right.
Yeah, I see what he means. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm good with it, especially with this, so I can fix that real quick. That's no problem.
Because you got the cane on its own layer.
Yeah.
Do you make a mask, or do you physically erase it?
I physically erase it.
Okay.
With Procreate, it makes it really easy to do that. And I think Clip Studio and stuff has all the masks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I got into masks for Photoshop when I was doing some photo editing, and I couldn't believe how nice masks are when you kind of get comfortable with them. Just because it's non-destructive, it's nice to be able to.
No, you're absolutely right.
Look at that, how that filled in for you.
Yeah, the only thing is, just like I did right now, you got to make sure what layer you're working on.
Oh, okay.
Because now I just put these two together, so I can't just drop that in there like I've been doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing with that. But that's not a big issue. That's
no.
That's not compared with everything else you're getting with the program or whatnot. So what do you feel, to you, Ted, is the most important part about making the comic book? That you personally just have to get, like, that part has to be perfect.
Man, that's a toughie. I feel like I have to see the soul of the character. There's something, when you're working on a character and it doesn't quite feel like the character yet. There's something to that moment when I feel like, yeah, that is the character. That feels like the soul of her. And I think the story is the most important thing, but in terms of like what we're doing here with art, I think you've got the soul of her there.
Awesome. So, go ahead.
No, I think it's also blended together, as I said, because when I get the script, I get the layout. Like I said, I'm lettering the layout. At every stage, it's just this blending. So I don't feel like any process is its own thing in a way. They're also connected, so that I feel, I think that was the right move. What do you think?
Yeah.
On the hand. So I can't say it's just one thing, but I do feel like I won't go into war making a comic if I don't feel like I've got a really good story. I mean, why bother? Because it takes so much time and it's so much effort for everybody. Like, you've really got to have that belief that this is a story really worth telling and working on for however many months it's going to take. So I guess that if there is one thing, I think that story's just got to be pretty solid from the top.
Yeah, it's got to sing. It's got to sing. Absolutely. All right, so I think we're coming around the bend here. Almost finished. I got to put these stripes in her, and then let's say she's done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put these on a separate layer.
And these stripes are tricky, man. We'll see if you do better. I have a very hard time with them. You're doing fine, but I tend to think of them as equally. You know, the black and white would be equal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw on one of the sheets you sent me. I was really impressed with the how intricate your deep notes were on the costume design for Punchline.
Oh,
Like there were no mistakes given. Like there's no room for it because like you tell exactly what needs to be on there. So because I get annoyed with drawing stuff like that, so I try not to put that many type of designs in there because I want to draw it over and over again or whatnot.
No.
But then it's always a question: how many do I put in here? Do I count this? Do I keep track of it? Or do I just try to eye it? But you have an exact number, and it's not ridiculous. It's like it's a nice, fair number that you could just bang out.
Yeah, you kind of want it to be consistent, you know, because I've learned that if you don't sort of, even being consistent with things, it's these characters have a lot of strange detail. Like I remember hearing about, you know, Jack of Hearts,
Yeah.
the Marvel character.
Mhm.
Artists hated to draw the Jack of Hearts because there was so much freaking detail in him, you know. So I feel like I've got a bunch of characters like that. You know, Punchline, Regina is brutal. She's got, you know, body paint like tattoos all over her body. It's gotten to, you know, to where if somebody's doing Regina, I'll say, look, just draw the character and I'll handle the tattoos on my end when I color it.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you're doing a nice job keeping the contour with the body. I've had such trouble with that on the images I've done over.
I appreciate it, man. I'm not gonna lie. It comes with lots of drawing, and I think me doing all these episodes that I've done have really helped. But this has been a good one. Oh yeah. So this is something else that we share. You've got cosplayers, man.
Yeah. Josie Jones cosplays Tap Dance Killer for us. She's terrific.
Yeah, she knocks it out the park. So what was the influence of getting a cosplayer to dress up for the costume, with the costume for you? Why did you think that you needed that?
There was Fashion Week Cleveland, which was an event I shot several times, invited us to have a comic book booth at one of their events. And it was right when the Apama series was coming out that introduced Tap Dance Killer. So we decided to have a cosplayer for Tap Dance Killer. So we had a contest, and we put it on our website, and a friend of Josie's recommended her. You know, he told her, you know, you look just like this character. You ought to apply. And it turns out she's even an actor. You know, she's a stage actor. Like her origin and her backstory in Nikki St. Clair, who is the Tap Dance Killer, Nikki St. Clair's origin story and Josie's are hand in hand. So she's wonderful at it.
That's awesome. That's a amazing coincidence. Did she tell you that in the audition? Or did you find that out later?
I think we found it out pretty early. You know, and just kind of, we were both kind of jazzed by that. That's looking great. That is looking so great.
Thank you. Like I said, man, I want y'all's characters to look good, and plus, you know, how do you pronounce his name? Oslo.
Oslo.
Um, he just said, "Please make this available for coloring." I'm giving it to Ted when it's done, so Ted can do what he wants with it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, Oslo.
Yeah,
Yeah, Oslo. Are you planning to color it with like Photoshop or something? Well, we'll wait on that.
all right. So the only thing I want to do now is
Can I ask for one other thing?
go ahead.
Can you make a thin line down the center of her face that separates the
Oh,
makeup
the
side
makeup.
from the natural?
I'm glad you said that because I forgot about it. So
And
yeah,
then she also does have sort of like a spiky teardrop coming down both eyes.
yeah, I got them. I just haven't inked those yet, but I did forget. So thank you for reminding me.
No, no worries.
I'm just trying to figure out. There's some of these lines that I like, um, and I want to try to keep them, even though I got that um, the shirts, the stripes going on there. So just trying to figure out how to
Oh,
keep.
those lines.
Yeah,
Yeah, that becomes a problem. I've sometimes there's so much detail in the costume that well with Regina with the body paint, any extra detail lines really kind of end up messing up the look. She has to be kept pretty clean. Oh,
yeah.
that's
That's
cool.
why.
She's doing like a reverse thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll work. So I'll see it once I
Go full
go
opacity.
go back to opacity.
Oh, he says he's training in Clip Studio. So
Oh, okay. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Excuse me. I say this has been
that's
a fun
great.
experience because I was wondering, like when you were bringing it in, which one I was going to draw and how to do it.
Mhm. Oh yeah, you already had him in there. Yep.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Was that a sneeze?
It was a cough.
Oh, bless you anyway.
Thank you. Actually, I think I. And then we got the.
It wouldn't be on her lips.
I was not on her lips.
No.
No problem. That's what that edit undo is for.
Now, can I ask I love it. I'm just curious about something.
Go ahead.
Um, on the face still, how might you, before it's colored, show that the one side of her face, her right side is white face paint, but the other side is natural skin color? Like, would you give that one a little more shade on the left, or?
That, my friend, is a good question.
And you don't have to do anything. I think it looks great. I'm just curious about that. Is it just because she looks, I'm not trying to make this more difficult than it needs to be, but I'm just curious what you would, how you would.
No, you're fine. That's a good question. I'm like, I need to figure that out because I didn't think about that, but that is really good. Like, how can I do that? Maybe it's a bit of taking some of that away. This is why I love this thing, man. Like,
Well, and the other thing Ramita said that I love, and it's John Ramita was John Ramita Jr. and Stan Lee. It's a YouTube video, and it is so good. But he talks about, and this is the challenge of what I just asked you. When you're drawing females, to not add a lot of lines. He said,
yeah,
because they end up looking, like they have 5 o'clock shadow or something. So it's a challenge, and I didn't know. It's something that I'm curious about. We don't really do it when we do the book, but I was just I think it's probably better handled in the coloring.
yeah. I don't think I can solve that one because that's what I was peakish about, was adding all the kind of.
Yeah, no, it makes her look. It would look better before.
But I do need to include her eyebrow, though. All right, well, there we go.
Dude, man, fantastic. I'm so honored. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, man. And as the replay plays, tell everybody where they can find you, Ted.
Oh, look at this. That is herotomorrow.com, on Facebook /herotomorrow, or my personal is Ted Sikora. And that's either Instagram or Twitter, and TED SIKORA. I will post all that in the comments as well. And yeah, I'm doing a deal now where you can get 20% off, and that's by using the code. What is the code? Roaring 2020s.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. So my name is Mike Watson. You can find me at Art of Mike Watson on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Be sure to hit up shortfusemediagroup.com, our website, where you can order t-shirts, action figures, and all of our comic book collections. I recommend buying the print copy because you get the digital copy for free when you buy the print. Be sure to follow Ted at wherever Ted goes. And there it is. It's finished. And I'll be giving this to Ted. So if Ted wants to make this available for colors, he's more than happy to, or he can color himself because he colors.
Yeah.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel because I do content like this every week, and my next 2 weeks worth of content is up, and you can see my schedule of who's coming on. Today's Wednesday. I'll be joined tomorrow by Editor-in-Chief Danny Cooper, as we will be drawing. I'll be drawing a hotshot page live, so I'll be taking you through that whole process of my reference, how I pull that in, and how I'm drawing this. We'll go on this journey tomorrow of me drawing a comic book in the iPad. Saturday, I'll be joined by Sean Mack of Short Fuse Media Group, and we're taking all questions during that episode, and I'll be drawing Grit. So thank you. Glad to have you on here, Ted. Thank you for coming in. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, thank you. This is such an honor. It's always great to talk with you, but now I get a pin up. This is not fair. I'm going to hook you up with so much merch next time we see each other.
Oh yeah, and that's something we didn't talk about. Ted has awesome merch. I've got my Apama shirt. I need to get my tap dance killer shirt next.
Well, yeah. We will remedy that. I'll get it right in the mail to you. Thank you so much, man.
Cool beans. Hey, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock. If you have not called on, we kind of done a time change. I teach a virtual class now to my students till 3 o'clock. So we'll be back here tomorrow at 4, and we're closing out, and I'll check you guys later.